welcome to another booktube video from me, Lauren, from Lauren and the Books. I hope you're all very well. I'm just looking down here because today's video, guys, we're going to be casting our minds back to a little date known as May the 31st, 2015. This is my first booktube video that I put up on May the 31st, 2015, over 6 years ago. The video is entitled June Book Haul 2015. I don't know what I was thinking. It's a TBR. I obviously hadn't got me acronyms and stuff sorted out by that point. I just thought I was leaning straight into doing a book haul. I'll tell you my little my story of how I got into doing booktube. I've mentioned it many times on this channel, so you may well know this. But I always used to read books that were recommended by the Richard and Judy Book Club, which is a book club run via W.H. Smith's by Richard and Judy, who are two television presenters, literally from the 90s. They were on This Morning all the way through my childhood, and they run a book club. So I used to read those books. That was how I got it. And then if I found a book that an author that I'd like, I'd then read all of their back catalogue, and I would also read books that were being made into films, because I think, oh well, if it's so good it's being made into a film, it must be a good book. So I would often search lists of film book adaptations, books that were being made into films that year, and then read that. And then one day I was Googling what should I read next blog, thinking I'll get into following some sort of blog, and a page from the Book People, which are a company that sell extremely cheap books. I'm not even sure if they actually still run now. They had a page with 10 booktubers on it, people who spoke about books and filmed videos about books, hadn't ever heard of this before, and was like, oh my god. So the first person I watched was Sana over at Books and Quills. Also on that list was Jean, and I just sort of like consumed Sana's videos for about 3 days, watched her new thing, watched stuff that she'd done more recently, watched her back catalogue, etc, etc. And I remember saying to David, like, I could do this. I love books and I could definitely do this. And David was working at a school at that time, and had in the IT department, and they had a little tiny camera. God, David, do you remember that camera? It was a tiny little thing, wasn't it? Honestly, like about as big as a box of matches, tiny little red camera. And he brought it home, and I filmed some videos on it. David edited the first few videos for me. And yeah, from then on, I just sort of just went into it. I just thought I could do this. And in pure Lauren style, I did. Now, this hobby has lasted longer than any hobby of my entire life, as you can see. That was over 6 years ago, and I've never had a hobby that has lasted that long. Would you agree, David?
I would agree. He
would agree. So now we're going to visit this video together. I'm going to watch it alongside with you, and I'm going to talk about whether I read the books or anything, or what I thought of the books. At the moment, I'm just looking at the background of it. It's just started. I'm looking very smiley. I've got brown hair there. I think that was called a balayage, actually. So it's like darker at the top and then faded into a more sort of like warmer blonde, rather than this icy blonde now. Grey t-shirt on, statement necklace, and sat in front of our Mickey Mouse wall. Do you remember our Mickey Mouse wall, David?
Do I ever? In
our second flat, when we lived together, we got in touch with a guy that I used to privately rent off of when I lived with my friend Neve, and I messaged him to say, oh, me and my boyfriend are looking at moving in with each other. Have you got any properties that we could rent? And he said, oh yeah, we've got. I'm actually currently converting a house into flats, and I'm going to be building next door. So he let us live in one of the first flats, didn't he? While all the building work was going on for the first year, and there was like a subsidised rent. I don't know how much subsidised it was. I don't think it was that much, was it? Maybe like 50 quid.
I think it was about 50 quid.
Yeah, and he let us live there.
A year.
And as a result, because we were going to be moving into one of these new flats, he said, oh, if you want it decorated anyway, just let us know. So I wanted this Mickey Mouse paper, and we'd seen it. I remember giving it to him and him being like, what is that for? But they still put it up for us. It was very tricky wallpaper to put up, but yeah. I used to love that wallpaper. It was a big talking point, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And a lot of people used to comment on it on my first few videos. So there we go. That's the story behind that. So let's go into it. David's given me very strict instructions of what I can and can't do. I can't talk while the video's on, guys. So I'm just going to go straight into it. I'm going to watch it together and we're going to react. Go. Hello. My name's Lauren, and this is my first ever
booktube video about the books that I'm hoping to read in June, my TBR books to read in June.
She's very cute. She's also very, very nervous, isn't she?
Yeah.
And yeah, I haven't sort of mastered the hello and welcome to another booktube video. I remember saying, no, I don't say Lauren and the Books then, do I? Because I'd already decided that the channel was going to be called Lauren and the Books. But I don't say hello, welcome to I'm Lauren and the Books. At least I don't think I did. God, literally, I've just watched it. But yeah, nervous she is.
So I'm going to start with the books that I'm reading for my book clubs. I run 2 book clubs, one at my place of work where we're all physically there, and another over Facebook with some friends. So I'll start with my physical book club, and we are going to be reading We Were Liars by E. Lockhart.
This is a book that I have literally taken from Sana's channel, because Sana worked for Hotkey Books at that time, I think, and I'm sure this book was published by Hotkey Books, and there was a lot of hype around that. There was a lot of people making videos about that book, featuring it in book hauls and things like that. So that's why I picked that for my book club that was in person at work. Sadly, my book club in person at work doesn't run anymore. It got to the point, well, obviously during COVID, because I work in a hospital, a lot of people weren't in the hospital, working from home, etc, etc. We weren't meeting face to face, and I think for maybe a few years before the book club as well, we'd sort of been slowly sort of drifting apart. It's a very, very different group of people who enjoy very, very different reading books. So we'd never have a book club where everyone was beside themselves and having loved a book. We'd quite often have a book where someone would have hated it, someone would have thought meh, someone would have loved it, and it didn't really make for that great discussion. Like, it wasn't like, oh, there was a... And it was getting to the point where the people who weren't enjoying the books weren't reading the books. So yeah, we just sort of knocked it on its head during COVID. But yeah, I remember reading that book and being a bit underwhelmed, actually, I think. Maybe I had higher hopes for it than I thought.
I don't know much about the actual storyline of the book. What I do know is that it won Goodreads Young Adult Fiction 2014 award last year. I think it's about privileged family that go on holiday to an island, and then there's some sort of drama going on at the same time. So I'm really looking forward to that. I've heard really good things. It's very, very short. It's 225 pages, so that's not going to take me long to read at all. So I'm really looking forward to reading.
That's funny. I still do that now, don't I? When I talk about a book, I'm like, oh, it's not very long at all. It's going to be this. That's odd that I'd started doing that from the very beginning. I feel like I'm still the same sort of person. I'm obviously much more confident now in front of a camera. But yeah, I can tell I'm nervous, but I'm obviously, look, I'm still giving it the good Lauren goings.
In that. My other book club, the book club that I'm doing over Facebook with my friends, we are reading The Humans by Matt Haig.
That book club does still run. So what happened is that I, not content with running one book club, I thought, oh, well, I'll run another book club on Facebook, because a few of my friends had said to me, oh, I wish I was part of a book club, and as they didn't work where I worked, they weren't able to join it. So I said, oh, would people be interested in joining an online book club where we pick a book and discuss it over Facebook chat once a month? And the first book we ever read was A God in Ruins? No, it wasn't. It was Wonder by R.J. Palacio. And loads of people joined in. There was like 40 people. It was quite difficult because obviously Facebook chat is only a tiny little screen. I was on my laptop and it was like whizzing by. And then the next month we read The Bees. Then the next month we read A God in Ruins. And then I think The Humans was the 4th book we read. Weird that I remember that so vividly. But as the months went by, people sort of dropped out. So we started with like, I'm sure it's almost like 50 people. And dropped out and dropped out and dropped out, and then I'd get like and I would always advertise it every month if people wanted to join in they could, but then it got to the point where it was the same sort of 4 or 5 people, which obviously makes for a much better chat when you're in a chat like this, yeah, so now it's just a sort of like private closed off group. So because I advertised it through my Facebook, which I don't use for anything other than the book club, it was all people that I knew from school or were friends and things like that. But now it's got to the point, so my online book club now is somebody that I work with, a girl who I've never met, but I used to know her boyfriend. Her boyfriend worked at the same school that my housemate Neve worked at. Somebody who I know through my cousin Laura, and a girl that I used to go to university with. So none of these people have ever met, but we all have a lovely chat every single month. It's really, really nice. But yeah, that's the beginnings of those of that book club. I didn't like The Humans. I'm not a big Matt Haig fan, guys. I feel like I feel like he's very overhyped, and I'm always surprised at how keen everyone is. I can't believe I've been filming this for 9 minutes. I've only watched 1 minute of the video. Get back to it, Lauren.
Again, this is something that I've heard loads of good things about. A few people have recommended it to me. This is a short book. I've heard it's a very easy read. So really looking forward to reading that. I'm hoping to get a big crowd reading it for the online book club this month. It's a quick, easy read, and I'm really, really looking forward to reading that.
One thing I did notice when I was filming these videos, and I knew this at the time when David was editing it, I say really looking forward to that about 30 times in this video. But that is also something that I still do now. I still say really looking forward to that all the time.
One more thing to do with book club before I start on my actual books and my library books is that we read, on the first ever online book club I did, we read Wonder by R.J. Palacio. Absolutely loved it. My favourite book of the year, one of my top 5 books of all time.
The glimmer of that book has now faded for me. At the time I really loved it, but for now I think I don't love it as much as I did that first time I read it.
So heart-rending, beautiful, lovely story, lovely characters, lovely ending. But this copy, which I didn't have at the time, this is my boyfriend's mum's copy, has a bonus chapter, a Julian chapter, about the sort of the bully character in it. So I'm really looking forward to getting around to reading that at some
Really looking forward to.
point as well, because I've read the book, but I want to read the bonus. So they're my 3 book club books. Then I've got some books that I've bought this month, some books that I got for Christmas that I still haven't got around to reading, and one which I'll start with, which is one of the Penguin Modern Classics little 80p books that I must get around to reading. I bought it a few months ago and I've got no excuses. It's 55 pages, and some of these pages are drawings anyway, so I really need to get around to reading that. Charles Dickens, Great Wingleby Jewel. Haven't ever heard of the Great Winglebury Jewel before, so looking forward to finding out what that's like, because I love Charles.
She's looking forward to that as well. I remember nothing of that book. I've definitely read it. Honestly, I could not tell you a thing. I suppose it was 6 years ago, but yeah, I can't remember a thing about it.
Charles Dickens, and I just find him so funny. So next, staying with the classics themes, I got both of these for Christmas, the Penguin cloth bound classics. I collect them and they're absolutely beautiful, as you can see, beautifully bound, lovely colours. This is Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. My sister bought this, and this is Lady Chatterley's Lover by D.H. Lawrence, which my boyfriend's mum bought me. I'm going to read one of these this month. I'm not sure which one. I've read Frankenstein a couple of times before, really loved it, and there's a film coming out this year, so I obviously want to read that before the film comes out. And Lady Chatterley's Lover, which I've never read, but I've heard it's a bit rude, so wouldn't mind giving that a go. Not sure which one I'm going to read this month, but one of them I'm going to read.
I've never read Lady Chatterley's Lover. I've read Frankenstein a few times since then. Whether or not I read it that month, I can't remember. But yeah, Lady Chatterley's Lover is still something that I need to pick up. And I actually think I had 2 copies of that, because I think I bought a copy in the charity shop, and then I think David's mum bought me one for that very Christmas. So yeah, I still need to read Lady Chatterley's Lover.
My next book is The Miniaturist by Jessie Burton. My boyfriend bought this for me at the beginning of the...
Love the way I'm referring to my boyfriend as my boyfriend. Now I just automatically assume everyone knows that David is my boyfriend.
month, so I'm going to read this at some point today. Not today, some point this month. It's a Richard and Judy book club recommendation, and they always recommend really good books, and if I'm ever stuck...
Oh, look at me. They always recommend really good books. I remember, again, The Miniaturist was another sort of beloved one on BookTube around the time that I started, and it's since been made into a TV Christmas special, I think it was, like a drama series. I, again, don't really remember much about it. I like Jessie Burton's writing, but I don't remember much about The Miniaturist. Maybe that's one I should potentially revisit. I know it's quite beloved to a lot of people, including booktubers.
Stuck for anything to read, which does happen sometimes, even though I've always got a really big backlog. I always have a look at their past recommendations, because they've got, one of my friends put it really well, is that they've got a really good way of sort of like getting you into a genre without it being like forced on you, like they do like easy read crime novels, and then you can find out if you like the genre of crime and things like that. I'm not sure what sort of genre this is. I've heard it's set in Amsterdam, and it's about a miniature house that somebody has, and that's all I know. So my friends read it, said it's really good, so I'm looking forward to that.
Looking forward to it again.
Next one I bought, I had a bit of a spending spree on Amazon.
Amazon!
Is The Outsiders by S.E. Hinton. I read this when I was in year 9 at school, many, many years ago, and really enjoyed reading it then, and I'm looking forward to reading it again. I remember it's about two groups, a bit West Side Story without the la-di-das, I think, so the socks and the greasers, so really looking forward to reading that again, and finding out if I enjoy it as much now as I did then.
I did read that, and I didn't enjoy it as much as I did the first time round, but I think when I read that was the first book that I'd read when I moved into my secondary school, and it felt very grown up to sort of be reading an interesting book. I feel like I'd only ever done stuff that I'd been forced to do in terms of like Romeo and Juliet and stuff that I never would have like naturally gravitated to, so it was really interesting and fun to read a book and then pull it apart. But yeah, I still enjoyed it, I just didn't enjoy it as much the first time round.
My second to last book that I bought myself is David Levithan's How They Met and Other Stories. So this is short stories by David Levithan. If you like John Green, if you like young adult fiction, you're going to love David Levithan. I read Every Day last month, and I read it in like a day. I really, really enjoyed it. Really easy read. So I'm hoping that this is just as good as Every Day, and I love short stories, and I think this is a really good book, and I'm really looking forward to it. They're all about love. So I'm looking.
She's a bit full of it there because she doesn't really love short stories, and even now she doesn't really love short stories. There's collections of short stories I very much enjoyed, but I think short stories was something that were quite new to me when I started YouTube, and I sort of thought maybe I'd definitely like them. And yeah, I don't love short stories, but I do enjoy them. But yeah, I was saying there. But also David Levithan, he's somebody that at the beginning of my YouTube career, oh my god, I just read everything he'd ever written. I think I read, like I said, I read that other book every day in like one day, and yeah, I just went through the back catalogue basically and read all of the YA stuff by him, which is unusual because I'm not a big YA lover.
My last book I bought myself, which I'm super excited about, is Reading the World, Confessions of a Literary Explorer by Anne Morgan. So this is about a girl who was watching the Olympics and thought, look at all these diverse cultures, how wonderful everything is. I wonder what it would be like to read a book from every single country that competed in the Olympics 2012. So she went and did that, and she read 196 books. Some obviously were easy to come by, USA, England, United Kingdom or Great Britain, and others were harder. Some countries didn't have things translated into English, so it was really hard to come by. So I'm really looking forward to reading that. I don't read much non-fiction, so this I'm really, really excited about.
That is very true. Before I started BookTube, I never read any non-fiction really. I sort of had relegated non-fiction in my mind to school projects and things like that. Nowadays, I just love reading non-fiction. This book in particular, Reading the World, I remember being so pumped about it. I think I found out about it, if I remember rightly, on Dawn O'Porter's Instagram. I remember her reading it while she was on holiday or something, and me thinking, oh, that'd be a great project. I've always been into lists and projects and things like that. But yeah, I think it ended up being not quite what I thought it was going to be. I thought it was maybe going to provide me with like a series of book reviews about those books and stuff, and it wasn't. Still very interesting. It was more, I wonder how I get on with it now actually. It was more about the translation and how hard it was to come by text from different countries and things like that. But yeah, I wonder what it would be like. Sadly, I don't know where it is. I don't remember ever giving it away or anything, but I don't know where it is. I wonder if it's in, there's still some books in our storage unit that I haven't unpacked. Also, weirdly, my colleague has just decided that next year she's going to try and read a book from every single country. So if I can get my hands on that, that might be helpful to her. But back to it.
Excited about, and I hope it's as good as I'm expecting it to be. That's all the books I've bought. Now I went to the library yesterday and got 5 books out from the library. Really excited to read all of these. The first one I'm going to read, because it's already got a reservation on, is A God in Every Stone by Kamila Shamsie.
That was the first Kamila Shamsie I read. I really didn't get on with it at all, and it actually really put me off of reading the book. What was the one that won the Women's Prize? Oh God, it's not up there anymore. But yeah, I remember when that one, oh God. I want to say Home Fire, is that it? And I was actually put off by reading that because I really didn't get on with A God in Every Stone. I remember finding the grammar and the set out of it. There was no sort of punctuation, no speech marks and things like that, but that was on the Women's Prize for Fiction shortlist that year, and I remember watching an episode of Sunday Brunch on Sunday, and Grace Dent was on there. She was on the judging panel that year, and her talking about the books that were on there. So that's why I've got that out from the library.
This, I don't know anything about the storyline or anything. All I know is that it was nominated for the Women's Literary Prize for Fiction this year. I've read The Bees by Lane Paul, which was another nomination, which we read in online book club actually, which was enjoyed, and so I'm looking forward to reading that, and I've got to read that first because it's due back to the library because so many people want it, so looking forward to that. My next book I got from the library is Attachments by Rainbow Rowell.
Rainbow Rowell, again, was somebody who was very beloved on YouTube at the time that I started. She's someone whose back catalogue I worked through and bought them and got them from the library and things like that. Nowadays I probably wouldn't read a Rainbow Rowell book, but at the time I remember being quite into them.
I've just read a Rainbow Rowell book, Landline, which was okay. I was expecting it to be...
I'm not even into it then, am I? It was okay.
Bit more... I don't want to say a bit more grown up because I know it's sort of like young adult, just peeking into adult fiction. But there was things of it that I was a bit like, oh, it's a bit easy. So I've given it another go because I've heard Attachments is really good. I've also got Eleanor and Park to read at some point, which I've heard is like young adult, so I'm not going to expect much more from that. So I'm looking forward to reading this. And it's about two girls who work in the same place who are emailing each other, and the IT guy who's reading in on their emails falls in love with one of them. So that'll be...
Yeah, that just does not sound like something I would read now. But yeah, and you, like I said, you can tell I'm not even that into it, so I'm obviously just slogging through it.
A nice, easy read. Another book I've got out, which is a lovely, lovely book, is Boy Snowbird by Helen Oyeyemi. I think this is an adaptation of the story of Snow White. I can't be certain, but I think it is.
Again, this is another one that was really doing the rounds on BookTube when I started, and I remember reading that, and I hadn't really read anything like that before with that level of magical realism in it, and I think I was quite surprised by it all. I don't think I've read any of Helen Oyeyemi since then, and I need to revisit that.
There's a lot of hype around it at the moment, and I'm looking forward to getting into that.
The actual book itself, though, is ever so beautiful, isn't it? A naked hardback with that lovely gold foiling on it.
Second to last library book is Patrick Ness, More Than This. I would always go for a paperback book. I just find reading paperback so much easier. I'm lazy, I don't like holding things up.
Still feel like that now.
But I thought this was really cool because of the little door in the front. So I've got a hardback just for that reason. Patrick Ness, I've been recommended because I like John Green and I like things like that, so I've been told that he's the next person to go to once you've read all your John Greens. So looking forward to reading that. He's got a few young adult and actual fiction books out, so I'm looking forward to getting into him and hoping that I enjoy him as much as I enjoy Gone Read.
I've never really got into Patrick Ness. What's the really, really famous one that was made into a film and is about a boy whose mother's dying or something? It's got a big tree in it as well. Yeah, we read that for book club once. But people are forever telling me Chaos Walking, is that something? That's a series of his, isn't it? I was forever told at the beginning of BookTube that, oh, I'd really enjoy that, and I can't believe I didn't end up reading them actually, because they're very, very popular. But yeah, never really got that much on with it.
My last book, which I'm really, really excited about,
and I was really, really excited about this. When I got this out from the library, I remember being in there flying because it was on the shelves. I was so excited to read this.
I've never read any graphic novels in my entire life, and I keep hearing so much hype about them and how wonderful they are. And whenever I've looked for them, they always seem to be comic-y and about X-Men, which I like and everything, but...
You don't like X-Men!
I don't think I'd be that interested in reading a book about the X-Men. So I heard about a graphic novel called The Encyclopedia of Early Earth by Isabel Greenberg, and I was going to buy it for myself, and I was just in the library yesterday and I saw that they had it. So this is The Encyclopedia of Early Earth by Isabel Greenberg, and I've read the sort of first few pages and I love it already. It's so cool. It's got really, really good graphics and it's a really cute story. So far the story's gone, I won't be giving any spoilers away here, but it starts off with two people who fall in love with each other but can't come within 2 feet of each other. They're Eskimos and they get married. and then it's just that they can only tell each other stories. So when they go to bed of an evening, they tell each other stories. So I think that's what the book's going to be about, all the stories that they're telling each other. But I'm so excited to start it. I've really been enjoying it so far, and I'm hoping that this will be the first of many graphic novels that I enjoy reading.
And it was the first of many graphic novels that I enjoyed reading. I remember so vividly that feeling of seeing it on the shelves in the library and being off my head excited about it. So yeah, it was. And Isabel Greenberg I really enjoy. Last year I read Glass Town, that's her most recent one, and adored that as well. So yeah, that has stayed a consistent throughout, and I would never have picked those books up had it not been for BookTube. Again, I remember seeing that on Sana's channel. God, I was a right little Sana fangirl then, wasn't I? Still am!
Reading. If anyone's read any graphic novels, even comic-y ones, I'd be interested to hear what ones you'd recommend, because I really want to get into graphic novels this year. So if you could comment below, I would love that. So that's it. That's my to be read pile in June. There's 15 books there. I normally manage about 10. So obviously one's a graphic novel. So
it seems as though my reading has stayed about the same level. I still roughly read. It would be rare that I would read less than 10 in a month. So I read sort of 10 to 15 books a month. So yeah, I actually thought I read more nowadays, but obviously not if I'm claiming there that I read about 10.
It's a bit shorter. One's very, very small, the Penguin Classic, so I might be able to manage all of them. So I'm hoping to manage about 10 of those, and I'm really looking forward to reading them. If you've read any of these books, if you think I'd like any of the books based on what I've shown you today, then please comment below and let me know. And just let me know how I'm getting on, because this is my first ever BookTube video, and I really want to make a good go of this. Cheers, bye! Oh, say hello, my name's Minnie.
Oh, Minnie at the end!
Hello, my
Get off of me.
Oh, sad.
You'll sit for the camera. Right.
That's so cute that I included Minnie at the end. So there we go. I like the way at the end I say, I really want to make a good go of this. And I did really want to make a good go of it, and I think I have made a good go at it. So yeah, there I am reacting to my first ever video that I've done. I quite enjoyed doing that, it was funny. David's got to edit this now because it involves a lot of stopping and starting, and I'm very confused about the whole thing. Let me know how long you've been around. Have you been here since the Mickey Mouse wall? Have you been here since the second flat we lived in, where I used to sit in the window? Or are you more recent? Let me know how long you've been here for. And yeah, I'll see you all again soon for another BookTube video. Goodbye!